because I'm a father of
the
twins.
twins. Yeah. All right.
Some people will call me by the name of I won't call him the older one, but the bigger one. When it's musically, I'm part of a band called Mandingo Bay Warriors.
All right.
And in that band, my name is Dikembe. But I also go by the name Rasby sometimes when I perform in other places.
Okay. It's quite interesting to hear. So what does Dikembe? Yes, what does that mean?
Well, that one is, to understand it, you will have to understand about Mandingo Bay Warriors as a band.
Okay.
So the way that our names come.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. You have to understand the band.
All right. No problem. We'll get into that a bit later on. But I want your birth name first.
I was about to come with that, right? So, on my birth certificate, my official name is Fanuel Kapuma. That's what you'll have on my birth certificate.
All right. Okay. And where was Fanuel actually born? I know you mentioned Zimbabwe, but any specific location?
Yeah, I was born in Bulawayo, Shabalala Clinic.
All right.
In the year 1977.
Okay. Oh, so you're my elder.
We are there. We are there.
No, good to hear. So I just wanted us to dwell a little bit in your background. Tell me about the time when you were growing up in Chabalala. How was that like? Education? I'm just trying to get to a point where we understand how that helped build you to who you are today.
Like I mentioned before, I'm a son of a man who worked for the railways. And as a young man, my dad used to get moved around a lot. So I was born in Shabalala, but my education didn't start in Shabalala. Okay. So when I was about 4 years old, my dad got moved.
Okay.
And he got a job in Gweru, still working for the National Railways, so the whole family had to move. So I started my grade 1. My actual education started in Gweru at Riverside Primary School.
Okay.
And I was fortunate because this is where I started getting exposed to loads of different people, learning how to speak different languages, because the community that I lived in was quite integrated. So I was learning to deal with different people. So at a very young age, I was learning how to speak different languages. I could already speak Shona, I could already speak a bit of Ndebele, and I was learning how to speak English at a very young age.
Wow.
So after that, my education kept moving. So from Gweru, I only did grade 1 in Gweru. Then my dad got moved again to Harare. So the family couldn't move with him to Harare. I had to go and live in Nyazura, where I did my grade 2 and grade 3 until I could move and stay with my dad. And then I did my grade 4 up to grade 7 at Lokimva Primary School in Harare.
Oh wow, you went to Lokimva? Because I went to Lokimva.
Did you?
Yeah, I did.
And then you see, things kept moving. Finished my grade 7, my dad got moved back to Bulawayo.
Oh, wow.
So we had to move back to Bulawayo again as the whole family. And my Form 1 was at Lobengula Secondary School, which was a long way from where I lived. I lived in Makandeni. So I had to walk a long way to school and back. Second year, Form 2, I managed to get a place at Luveve High School, which was much closer to home.
Okay.
So I did my Form 2 up to Form 4 at Luveve High School.
Wow. You know, when you talk of Makandeni, I remember Emma Ketsin.
It's the memories. I lived
just taking me back.
Right close to the railway. You know the railway that went to Vic Falls?
Yeah.
I lived right close to it.
Oh, right.
Right now, when I go there, I believe the whole place has changed. When I used to live there, once you went across that railway line, it was just forest. There was nothing. But now new communities have sprung up there. There's now Cowdrey Park.
Oh yes, Cowdrey.
Which wasn't there when I grew up.
Yeah.
So Cowdrey Park, by the time I was leaving Blueayo, which is 94, I had to leave and go back to Harare again.
Okay.
Because, like I said, my dad kept moving. Cowdrey Park was just starting.
Yeah.
So that's a long time.
Yeah, the only thing that I remember about Cowdrey Park was, it used to flood.
There used to be some quarries around that area behind our school. There were some quarries. We used to go and play in those quarries.
All right. Wow. Okay, so when you look at it, different transitions, movement from one area to another, what kind of impact did it have on you as a young, as a child?
To begin with, it taught me acceptance. Like I said, I was brought up in different places, and I was fortunate to experience the two different cultures that we kind of have. I wouldn't say cultures, or the two major tribes. So the Ndebeles and the Shonas. So I was fortunate to grow up in that kind of environment where I could experience both. But when you are in that situation, you are a bit fortunate, because sometimes you look at people that do not know about the other, and sometimes that's where cases of tribalism arose from. So like I'm saying, I was fortunate to experience different cultures, different tribes, and also learn about different languages at an early age. So it had a big impact on me to be accepting of other people as well.
Okay. Yeah, so being caught in between, let's dwell on the tribal bit a little bit. Obviously, I'm Ndebele, and I don't know, would you say you're half Shona, half Ndebele?
I always class myself as both.
As well.
I know people say you belong to your dad's tribe. My dad is Shona, my mother is Ndebele, but why would I not consider my mom's side? Yeah. So I'm mixed.
Yeah, so how was that like growing up in terms of like the tribal, obviously the tribal barriers that existed?
It was there with friends, not with family. Like I remember when I went back to Buluwayo after having been in Harare and other places. So the first time I went back was when I was doing my Form 1. And at that time I could barely speak any word of Ndebele. It was mostly Shona that I was speaking. And I faced a lot of that from Ndebele speaking guys. You know the names they would call you, Yeah, I used to get called all those names. But like I'm saying, you get family that know you are that. And as a young person, sometimes you learn languages as well quickly. So I still remembered it, and it came back quickly to me, to a point now when I speak, I'm quite fluent in Ndebele, and some people cannot even tell if I'm Ndebele or Shona.
That's very true. That's very true. Wow. Okay, so then you went on to do your secondary.
Yes. So this is quite interesting. So 94. In Zimbabwe, when you're doing your O-levels, you register for the subjects that you're writing in the first term.
Yes.
Right, and you pay for it. I've just done that. I've just paid for my subjects. My dad get transferred again.
Oh, wow.
Back to Harare. So I couldn't move with the family.
Because I
had already registered for my subject, so I had to stay in Blueayo for 2 more terms by myself. And guess what? I failed. And that was expected, because you don't have anybody watching over you, and all I was doing was just playing around. But I wasn't that daft. Smart kid. But without anybody to watch you, I wouldn't put it on my parents. I wouldn't blame them or anything, because it already been paid. That was the choice. But I did finish my O-levels, and I went and joined the whole family back in Harare.
Okay.
Then spent a couple of years working after school. I didn't want to do any more school. So I did a few jobs, like piece jobs, side jobs.
Yeah.
Then 98, I did a course in international tourism at Ranch House College.
Okay.
Then 99, I went to Victoria Falls. And before I started working in Vic Falls, I was fortunate to meet these guys. There was a group of traditional dancers.
Okay.
And these guys, one of the guys used to live in my ghetto in Harare. And he was the leader of this group. So I knew them and I went to stay with them while I was still looking for a job.
Okay.
But while I was still looking for a job, I used to perform with these guys. I used to do dancing and play drums for them and sing with them. And this is where my interest in music actually started to take root.
Okay.
So I used to go and perform with them, but eventually I got a job. I started working at a hotel, Zambezi River Lodge.
Yeah, I bet. All right.
That's where I worked there. But I think this music thing had now grown deep into me. Because even though I was enjoying working at the hotel, I was making good money at the hotel, I still wanted to do music. I still wanted to do that performance thing. It still started growing in me. To a point that I left my job.
Wow.
Yeah, so I left my job, I went back to Harare, and, well, Mom, if you're listening, I lied to my mom, right? Because I got back here and she's like, why are you back? And I told her I got fired. But no, I had not got fired. I left the job and I went back to Harare and I started my own musical group.
Okay.
So at that time, it was me and some friends. We called ourselves Umhaso Wamajaha.
Hey, wow. What does that mean?
The attack of the guys.
Of the guys.
Yeah, attack of the guys. So we were a group of 7, mostly Shona-speaking guys. Well, I could speak Ndebele, but I classed myself as Shona, and everybody else was Shona. But we were singing Ndebele songs, doing kind of Lady Smith, Mambazo kind of songs. And that's what I was doing with these guys, and my love for music just grew. And at that same time, I was learning how to play mbira. That's when I started to learn how to play mbira.
Okay. All right. So if we can just go back a little bit, obviously your love for music started taking root. But would you say as a young man, you had that artistic nature in you, but because you had not got that outlet yet, would you say you knew you were an artist or you dreamt of?
Well, not in the way that I am now, but I always loved music. In church, I would play drums in church. Yeah. I knew I was good at playing drums, but I never thought of it as a career at that point. I started doing, when people do weddings in Africa, they do wedding dances. I started coaching wedding dances when I was very young. I think I was 13, 14 when I started doing it. I used to love dancing. I was very good at dancing. And I could tell that I had a talent in music, but I never thought of it as a career until the point where I started performing with these guys, and I actually loved, that aspect of being on stage. That's when I started thinking, actually, I could do this as a living.
Okay. So the fact that you're not thinking of it as a career, is that parental influence or environmental influence? Is that a stigma that is there around?
A bit of both.
Okay.
So, I remember when I started playing or learning how to play mbira. So, this instrument in my country is mostly associated with traditional things, traditional music. And the one that I'm actually holding now is actually called Mbira Zavansimu. Right?
Okay.
Some piano of the spirit. And when I started learning how to play this, being brought up in a Christian family, my mother did not like it. She thought this is not really good for me to do because it's associated with spirits. So she used to tell me, "Oh, why are you doing this? Stop doing that." And Zimu, don't do that. And to a point, you actually start thinking, yeah, maybe she might be right. So sometimes you don't actually put as much effort because you're getting people older than you telling you that you shouldn't be taking up this. So you kind of doubt yourself to a point where you think, nah, maybe it's not for me.
Okay. So when you started playing this instrument, what really drew you to it?
I had a friend who played it.
Okay.
So one of my friends used to play it, and I used to play the shakers for him. Because like I said, I'm musically. So I'm a percussionist by profession. I play percussion. And shakers was one of the things I used to play. And we used to go out, just chilling and jamming. He's playing the mbira, I'm playing shakers, and with another friend of ours usually playing on the drums, and we're just singing, just having fun.
Yeah.
But I started having an interest in the instrument. I wanted to learn how to play it. Because when I always looked at him playing, it always looked like so much fun. So I wanted to learn. And he started teaching me, and for sure, it's so much fun.
Wow.
And the instrument itself, it's peaceful. It's a peaceful instrument. When they use it, traditionally, they say it can put you in a trance and it can connect you with the spiritual world. And I can actually believe that can happen, because when you listen to mbira music, you can be in that peaceful state. It can put you in that peaceful state.
Okay. So obviously, growing up in a religious family, obviously there's that disconnect now between the Christianity and our history, basically, because I think there's a lot of confusion between the two, and how we're not supposed to step over. How difficult was it for you as an individual and as a percussionist, did you say? They always call
Percussionist. Yeah. Not so. Well, you see, when you're growing up, you usually get guided by certain people, so you usually follow what they tell you. But you kind of get to a certain age where you start, thinking by yourself, following your own institutions, your own feelings. And myself, I got to a point where I got back to my roots as a black person, not my roots as a Christian. So when I talk about my roots as a black person, I'm not talking about ancestral-wise going back thousands of years and thinking how my ancestors used to live. So if I have that connection with my ancestors and that understanding of where I come from, it's easier for me to know who I am as a person. So it's easier for me to accept this kind of music, what I do, because for me, it's what my ancestors used to do.
What represents you.
Yeah.
Wow. So at what point you start dwelling in those kind of things? Like, obviously, they say that in order for you to know where you're going or who you are, basically, you've got to go back in the past.
You have to know where you're coming from.
Yeah.
You definitely have to know where you're coming from.
So at what point does this start, this journey start?
There is no point. It can start at any point. You don't have to be a certain age for you to understand who you are as a human being. So this is one thing that needs to be taught to our young generation, our own generation. They have to understand who they are as a person, who you are. And when I say who you are as a person, I'm not talking about you, Tokos or you. I'm talking about where you come from, your history.
Yeah.
Understand your history. If you understand the history of your people, it's easier for you to accept and connect with other people if you know who you are.
Okay. Yes, that's quite interesting. If you could tell us a bit more about that.
Okay, right. So, I know who I am. I believe in what my ancestors believed in.
Okay.
Because when I look at it, there's thousands and thousands of generations of my ancestors. I do not look down on any religion or any culture saying that's wrong. No. People as a human, you need to have something to believe in. You need something that guides you. You might be Christian, Muslim, Rastafarian, Judah. There is something that you believe in, something that guides you. I believe that it doesn't matter what religion you believe in.
Yeah.
There is always two elements in a person, good one and bad one.
Okay.
And even if you look at all the teachings, even from our own traditional things, we have the same things. We are always taught two things, bad and good. So as a human being, when I look at myself and I understand where I come from, it's easier for me to accept the teachings of my culture. I can relate to the teachings of other people. Because like I say, the message is the same. I understand the same message. So when I get Christians, I can understand the same message that I understand from traditional teachings as well. So if you accept and learn your history and know who you are as a person, makes it easier for you to deal with the world.
Yeah, definitely. I totally agree with you. So now, when we talk about our history, obviously we have come into the European kind of like way of doing things. How do we get our young ones, to have that connection? Because I think they kind of like they feel lost.
So with that one, I believe it's mostly parents' responsibilities to educate your children about their culture. But what you tend to get sometimes is when culture gets diluted. So when you lose your own values of your own culture and you look upon the Western culture as superior to your own culture, you will not pass on those values to your children because you think it's inferior and it's bad. So when you look at things like traditionally how our own parents used to, let's say, worship or give thanks. If I take it before Christianity came to Africa, right?
Yeah.
We had ways of doing things. Nowadays, if you want to talk about those things, it's all associated with badness. Not everything was bad. There is still some things that our ancestors did that were good. If those things that don't get passed on to our own children, all the good values of our own culture, if we do not pass them on to our own children, then our culture gets lost. All that our children will learn is the Western culture. So they will grow up not knowing their own culture.
Yeah. No, but I think I totally agree with what you're saying. But I find it difficult though, because like you're saying, when we start talking about Christianity, everything that we did as black people or as other nations
becomes obsolete.
Yeah, it becomes obsolete, and it's regarded as a dark thing, and yet this is the essence of who we are. Exactly. We are as individuals.
Yes.
So then obviously we become Christians at some point, and we erase everything else.
Like I said, I was saying before, if you look at what our culture and those values were taught, and you look at Christianity, same things are there, same values. Christianity will teach you the same values that our tradition taught, exactly the same values. But if you want to go and talk about our tradition, it becomes a bad thing.
Yeah.
See, and I believe that is something that has happened over a period of time where our culture has been taken and diluted a lot to a point where Western culture has become more important than our own culture. So that's why I'm saying I try when I'm in here, I try as much as possible to share my own culture, not only with my children, but with as many people as possible. Because sometimes it's our own fault that people do not follow or do not know about what we do because we do not talk about it. So I try and share as much as possible about my own culture. I try and represent as much as possible about my own culture. That's why I dress in things like this. And it's trying to represent my culture. I go to schools, I teach drumming in schools, I talk about my culture when I go to schools and I teach drumming lessons. It's things that I do to try and keep our traditions and culture alive and going.
Yeah, it's very true. I totally agree with you. Because I always say, even our own language is at the point of extinction. Because
exactly, you see.
Yeah, everything is just,
I remember growing up. Like I told you, I was always getting moved around. In my family, my dad is Shona, insisted we spoke Shona. We went to live in Blue Wire, like I was telling you. At school, you're speaking Ndebele all day. You get back in the house, dad is asking you to speak Shona.
Yeah.
So sometimes you forget you're a kid and you start talking Ndebele, and then the next thing you know, you get told off.
Yeah, true.
Stop. You speak Ndebele out there, in here you speak Shona.
Yeah.
We do not do that with our own kids sometimes. So we are more happy to speak a different language to them than our own language, which I find I'm guilty for myself. I try as much as possible to speak to them in Shona sometimes, so they know they will understand Shona and they will answer me back in English. But I think if we try to get them to answer back and teach them our language, then our languages will also carry on.
No, that's a fact. But as I see in other cultures, I look at like the Asian community, and I they're conversing with their young ones in their own language, and I'm thinking, how is that actually possible?
It's I think it's down to being proud of who you are. Like I'm saying, if you are proud of who you are, you know your tradition, you know who you are, you will hold on to those values. So if we are not proud of who we are ourselves, are you going to pass those values to your kid?
No.
Because you are not proud of that.
No.
But if you are proud of that's why I'm always saying, get back to who you are, understand who you are, understand your history.
100%.
Be proud of that, and if you're proud of that, you can pass that on to your kid. We get to a point where you get valued by how much English you can speak. Right? If you cannot speak English, they laugh at you. But that only shows that you know another language that you can speak.
Yeah.
And people should actually be proud of the fact that you can speak that language and you're actually trying to speak English.
Yeah.
But you try to speak English and you speak it wrong, you get laughed at. And I think that has become a bad thing that our children now, sometimes you get some of them wanting to try. But they get afraid that, if I say things wrong, if I pronounce things wrong, everybody's going to laugh. And maybe it has happened once, and everybody laughed instead of correcting and saying, no, this is not how you say it like this. So next time he wants to say it, all confidence is gone. So it's like, nah, I'll just keep speaking English.
Yeah, no, it's very true, because the issue of identity is something that I think we really have to look at, because we are at a point of confusion, even our children as well. Because I've had a few interviews with even my own children, and there is this identity crisis. I'm Zimbabwean, but I'm also British, so I'm trying to fit in with the local.
Nothing wrong with embracing other cultures and everybody else. But the point is, understand who you are. Know who you are yourself. It's easier for you to, explain yourself to other people. Who are you? Oh, I'm so and so, and this is my people. This is where they come from. But if you don't know your own identity, you're lost. So I'm not saying don't accept other cultures. Accept everybody else, but understand who you are.
As an individual. Yeah, 100%. I totally agree. Thank you very much, because this is one of the important aspects that I want to bring up in this, from different people, to have that understanding of identity. And the other one is obviously gifts. I mean, Dr. Miles Monroe mentions that every human being has 6 questions that they ask themselves, or every endeavor that they carry out, they're just trying to answer those. Who am I? Why am I here? Where am I going? What am I here to do? Those kind of questions. So yeah, thank you for touching on. I think that's a major one, major issue that needs to be addressed. But also, obviously we'll go back to Zim at some point. But also you're playing a very instrumental role in keeping that culture alive. Can you tell us a bit about the activities that, as long as I've known you, you've always been passionate?
Yeah, I've known you for
donkey years.
Yeah. We go way back. And I came to England on the 14th of August 2001.
Wow.
Still in my mind. So when I came here, I was actually a part of a group called Shashe Boys. So there were 7 of us. Came here, and we were supposed to come here and do a tour, but 4 months and go back home. But eventually, things started getting bad in Zim around that time. So we were fortunate enough to be allowed to stay by, this country.
Yeah.
And as a way of giving back, I started doing workshops in schools. And that was 2002. And I was working with a lady called Janet Litch, who lives in Bensham. And she was the one who used to get in contact with the schools, and I used to go and do the work. So we've done workshops in so many schools all over the country. I've been as far as Kent doing workshops. I've been Lakes. I've been all over the country doing workshops. I've worked with thousands of kids. I don't know how many schools I've been to now. I've lost number. I've lost count. I used to keep a calendar ticking, but they got so many that I lost count. Okay. But that's what I do. I do workshops in schools, in communities as well. And currently we also have a workshop that we do every Thursday in Sunderland. I work with a group called Matamba, House of Matamba. So we provide a community activity every Thursday for 2 hours drumming. It's from 6 to 8 p.m. This is free. Okay. Free to anyone. It's we started this aiming it especially to the African community in Sunderland. So it was mainly to try and give them something to do, but it's not just open to African communities. Okay. Open to anyone. Anyone, yeah. Experienced drummers and learners, all welcome. Okay. So these are the kind of things I've been doing for years.
Okay. So could you please elaborate on, when you say workshops, what in particular are you doing in those workshops?
Right. So when I go to schools, it depends what the school wants me to go and do. So I run African drumming workshops where I sit and teach the kids how to play African drums, explain to them about African culture and how drums impact on African culture, how important they are to African culture. And we talk about Africa and they ask questions. It's like more like a fun session that I do with kids. Always have enough drums most of the times for each kid to have their own drum. So if that's drumming, if it's dancing, which I don't do that much anymore, my knees won't allow me to do a lot of dancing now.
So with the dancing, was it kind of like gumboot dancing?
It was gumboot dancing. And you know how physical that dance is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could do it doing workshops. So imagine you go to a school and the school has demanded gumboot dancing workshop all day.
Oh my God.
And you've got classes all day doing gumboot dancing. 1 hour classes, 1 hour classes. You're dancing all day, gumboot dancing. There was a time when I could do that.
It'll keep you healthy.
There was a time I could do that, but then my knees started going, no man, you do that, you're doing it on your own. We're not taking part. So I had to stop. So unfortunately, I had to let Janet know that if any schools want to do any dancing workshops, I'm not doing any more dancing.
Okay.
But I can still provide singing workshops and drumming workshops. Sometimes we also provide African food tasting.
All right.
So some schools will want like to try some African food. So we'll take some food with us to school and the kids will try. We'll also do some jewelry making and some African mask making kits that kids can also do while we are there.
Okay. So taking you back to the first time that you actually started those workshops, what was that experience like for you?
The first one wasn't at a school. The first workshop that I did at Janet was like a community thing. So it was okay, it was nice, fine, all chilled. But my first school workshop, I was a little bit anxious, a little bit, I wouldn't call it scared, but I didn't know what to expect. I didn't really know what to expect. But after I'd done the first class, I'd shared all my experience, I was more alive. It was more fun. I wanted to have the next class come in and share again. So my first experience, though it started a little bit anxiously, by the time I got to the end of the day, I was vibing, I was buzzing. I wanted to do it again.
So how taking you back to you dealing with failure, we're going back to Zen, where you failed your first O-level sitting.
Yeah.
And obviously you come here, your first experience of doing workshops, it's nerve-wracking. How do you deal with failure?
Just don't give up. I know sometimes saying just don't give up is not the best way of advice to say. But with me, I'm the kind of person who's like, well, I failed, so what? I'll try again. I'll just try again. Like when I failed my O-levels, I don't like school that much. But I had to resit the subject that I failed. And I reset them, and it was okay, it was fine, I passed them. But like I said, I didn't want to do school anymore, so I had to go working until I went to college. Didn't like it, still passed it. But the thing is, if you fail, just don't give up, it's not the end of the world. So like I said, when I had the first class and I was anxious and I thought, no, things are going to go bad. It started really badly, but by the end of the lesson, things were fine. So I wanted it to happen more. There was times when you'd go, like, I remember going to the Lake District, very small school, tiny school. And first class walks in and it's nursery class, little kids. Black man sitting there, Lake District, they've never seen a black man before, right? I'm in my mood, I'm like, yeah, I want to be teaching. As soon as the first kid walks in and sees me, she starts crying.
Oh my God.
The rest of the kids start crying because she's crying. So now I'm this thing, oh no, I'm friendly, I'm okay. So what started off really badly with everybody crying ended up really nicely with everybody dancing.
So how do you turn that around?
I love kids. I love teaching. I love kids. I've always loved children. I don't know why, but when I am with children, I've got a lot of patience. So it don't matter what they do, it doesn't faze me. So that crying doesn't actually faze me. It inspires me to try and find a way to stop the crying. So play a little song, do a little drumming, things they know, but do it with a little bit of style. So when that started happening, I started doing, if you're happy and you clap your hands, by playing the drum. And they joined in. It was all fun. Sat down, we played the drums. I find it easy dealing with children than adults. Yes, I can teach adults. I've got the same patience when I teach adults. But I kind of draw a line with adults. Gets to a point where I'm like, dude, come on. You should be getting this. You're an adult. With kids, it's more about fun. It doesn't matter what they do. It's all about fun. So I always find a way to get around it because I love being around kids, teaching them.
Yeah, it reminds me that you're a father to those ones in Durham. The Williams and the Evans.
Yeah, my kids. Yeah, I've always been like that. So I'm brought up as a Boy Scout, grew up as a scout, started teaching other scouts. So I've loved that teaching aspect. Like I told you, I was teaching wedding dances from when I was 18. So teaching is something that I've always loved to do.
So teaching at the age of 13, how at the age of 18 I was busy running around looking for girls and all sorts. You're teaching. So what's going on there? Is it something that is within you that is looking for an outlet, or what's going on?
Possibly.
How did you start?
It's quite funny though, how this teaching wedding dances started. I think we're talking 91, 91, around there, 91, 92. I was part of another wedding, somebody's wedding, and I was part of the bridal team.
Okay.
I learned all the dances from that. The guy who was the coach. Watching him was inspiring for me. Okay. I loved watching this guy, all these things he was doing. It was inspiring for me. So I would sit and watch him and learn. And by the time he says, let's dance, I wanted to, impress. So I would show him that I was actually listening and learning.
All right.
And I got good at that, right? Then I had one of my uncles, he had a wedding, and he wanted someone to teach the wedding dances. So I said, I'll do it. And he said, you? And I said, yeah, I'll do it. And I did it and everything turned fine.
Wow.
So from that point on, I started getting people saying, oh, that boy did a good job. I'm going to do it. Can you do the steps? And I started teaching wedding dances from then onwards.
Wow. Yeah, so it's actually a gift that you have.
Possibly.
Yeah,
Possibly.
Obviously with the music that tops it. So naturally you're an artist.
I am a musical artist.
Musical artist. Well, you're a dancing artist as well. Well, that's good. That's good. So if we could just take a break and just show us a bit of what you can do with the nice mbira there.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite instruments. So usually when you get this, it usually comes with what is called a resonator. Or here,
Okay.
you can see there's a little bench there of one of the schools that I went to, Shorten Primary School. Shout out to Shorten Primary School.
Oh, in Wingate Way.
Yeah.
Ah.
So this usually comes with a resonator, and I usually love playing with the resonator because I usually put my ear on the resonator and I can send myself to sleep. But I'm gonna play a little track. I think this track is called Cham Tengure. So it goes like this.
Wow. That deserves a round of applause. Wow.
I would have played longer if it wasn't for the injury on my little finger here. Oh.
No, I've watched you play, even the drums when you're doing the drumming and
it's just unfortunate that I don't have any drums today. All my drums are somewhere else. I would have given you a little drum
No, this is only the beginning. Yeah, I mean, you're one person who I kind of like. I always look at people who look at my posts, and it's like I now somebody said to me, look at the data. You know, when you follow the data, you see what's actually going on. And I thought, wow, Kapuma is one person that I've always admired in terms of you being an artist, the passion, and you know, I don't know whether you realize this, but you are actually a success and an inspiration.
Well, I wish to be more successful.
Yes, well, all that comes with time, but you know, we as a people suffer from not discovering our passions or not knowing what our giftings are. And from this channel, this is one of the things that I would always want to highlight. You've got a very special gift, and now you make it even more unique because now you attach it to who you are as a person and where you've actually come from. And I think the key takeaway for me is, if you know who you are, as in your ancestral, you know, your heritage, then it becomes easier for you to stand out, you know, stand in front of people and say, you know what, this is who I am.
True, yeah, and you get encouraged to speak out. You can actually talk out because you know who you are and you know you are proud of who you are.
Yes.
And I'm fortunate to be working with like-minded people as well. So like I was talking about the band that I'm with, I've got like-minded band members that I work with. There's 3 of us, so I work with a couple of guys. One from Uganda, one from Kenya. The other guy is, one we call him Paupale, and the other one, we call him Malombo. Those are our Mandingo Bay Warriors names. But the other guy is called Ian, and the other guy is called KT.
Okay.
Ian is from Uganda, KT is from Lesotho, and we work together, and we are Mandingo Bay Warriors.
Wow.
And these people that are like-minded, to me, we think the same way. They understand where they are from. They embrace their heritage. You know, so it's easy for me to work with them because they think the same way I think.
Wow. So how can we, obviously I'll ask if you could introduce me to them so that maybe bring it together. Do you realize that you've actually brought Africa together? You know, you've actually torn, you know, the language barriers, you're uniting a nation.
Yeah, I would urge people to listen to our music. If you go on YouTube, you can find our music on all music platforms. Go on YouTube, search Mandingo Bay Warriors. You will find out that our songs we sing in different languages. We have songs we sing in Shona. We have songs we put a bit of Ndebele. We sing in Luganda, the Ugandan language.
Yeah.
We put a bit of Soto in there. So English, we mix all languages because our music is not just based for one person. It's
universal.
Yeah. So you'll find that we use all different languages.
Oh, that's quite interesting. It's quite interesting. So this is where we are now, and obviously the areas that you've actually realized that you're successful in, or you're capable of excelling in, which is music. So where is this going?
Hopefully taking it all over the world. That's the aim. we love music. We love doing music. And we're not doing music for money. We're doing music for fun because we love doing music. We love making music. But we want our music to reach everybody. You know, we want people to listen to our music, to enjoy our music. Although we've taken small steps, we are hoping to get there. So at the moment, we might struggle sometimes to get time together because of commitments. But we also try to put out some shows here and there. With our next coming performance going to be at the Middlesbrough Art Festival, which I was talking about in here. So there's going to be an art festival on the 27th of May in Middlesbrough.
Okay.
And Mandingo Bay Warriors is going to be performing there. And we are also going to carry out an African drumming workshop on the day.
Okay.
So this is us trying to share about our culture. So when we do the performance, it's just strictly music, strictly fun. But the workshop is more sharing about who we are, where we come from. So we're going to do a drumming workshop and teach people about who we are.
Wow. No, that's quite impressive. I really feel, I really need to connect with who I am as an individual, my heritage.
We all do.
Yeah,
We all do.
It's quite interesting. So, connection back home. Who still is there?
My mom. So my mom lives in Nyazura most of the time, sometimes in Harare. Then I've got 2 elder brothers.
Okay.
Living in one in Harare and the other one is in Rusape. Then I've got a younger brother who recently passed away, who comes after me. Then I've got one other brother who's in South Africa, and a younger sister who's living in Harare.
Okay.
As a family that is still there is my elder brothers,
Yeah.
my younger brother in South Africa, and my young sister, and my mom.
Yeah. Okay. So, if we could just dwell into a bit of a sensitive issue in terms of like, as an individual, how do you deal with loss?
It's not easy. It's not easy. That's a hard thing to deal with, especially when you live in this country. So you are away from everybody else. It's a hard thing to deal with. Sometimes you shut down. You don't even show any emotion. It's not that you are not thinking about what happened, but you don't know how to deal with it. You shut down. I remember when I lost my sister, 2017, New Year's Eve on 2017. When I was here, to me, that was what happened. I lost my sister. Yeah, I was okay. I wasn't that much affected. Yeah, I could tell I've lost my sister, but it didn't get to me at that point. And I think that was mostly because I wasn't around family. I had people come to pay condolences. People come to see me. Yeah, these are people that I see one time, but their emotions are not the same as when you're around family. So for me, it was easy for me to shut it out. It was easy for me not to think about it so much until I got home and I was now around people. And, it's just hard for you to hold in those emotions. Everything that you were shutting out just comes flooding in. So I think the best way to deal with loss, especially if you are in this country, is to try to find a way to go home. If the loss is back home, and I think that will give you closure. You deal with it much better when you are there than here. I find it when I'm here, I struggle if I'm by myself, even though I've got a wife and kids.
Yeah.
But it becomes too much for her as well to console me.
Yeah.
Sometimes you need, extended family around you, so it's much easier to go home for a time, be around people, that love you, your family, spend some time with them, find some closure, and come back. If you're still struggling with it, you can stay a bit longer.
Okay. Yeah, I remember when I was talking to Mavreen, first of all, thank you for sharing a little bit of, what goes through. We as men tend to kind of like struggle quite a lot. When I was talking to her, she was saying not many of our people are actually coming, to seek help. Why do you think that is?
That's a cultural thing. That is a cultural thing. I don't think it's just an African culture as well. It's in men. Basically, you see, the thing stems from this thing where you tell men don't cry. You're a man, you don't cry. If you are brought up to think that you're a man and you don't cry, you don't show emotions, you gotta be strong, you tend to shut in a lot of things. So even when you have things that are troubling you personally, you find it hard to go and tell people because you're like, well, if I tell them, then they're not gonna see me as a man anymore. Right? I need to be seen and to be strong. So I can't go around telling people about my problems. I'm a man, I gotta deal with them. And the more you try to deal with them yourselves, the more they mess with your head. That's why you end up with a lot of mental health issues for men. A lot of suicide cases for men.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of men, not just suicide cases, you get a lot of men dying from, conditions that can be treated. My dad, I can put that down to, I believe that's what happened to him. My dad died 23 years ago.
Yeah.
And it was renal failure.
Okay.
Right? And I know my dad had suffered with this thing for years and not said anything. I personally feel that. Because I feel by the time he started coming to tell us as his family that this is what is happening, it was at a point for him where he couldn't handle it himself.
No.
And at that point, it's already too late. Things are already happening to him that he knows, I can't deal with it by myself. And for sure, by the time we found out as a family, by the time he went to the hospital, it wasn't even that long before he passed away.
Wow.
And then as a family, people will start thinking, something happened. That's when these traditional things start coming in. He was only in hospital for 2 months and he passed away. He must have been bewitched. Something must have happened. But it's not that. It's got nothing to do with that. This man or this person will have been suffering for long. But the fact that he's a man and you were brought up to be a man, you don't go and I'm not going to tell my wife about this, otherwise I'm just bringing more problems on my wife. I'll stick with it. I'm a man. Mm-hmm. So I think that is the problem that happens with a lot of these men issues. It's this thing where men are told, or even boys, it stems from when you're a boy. When you start telling your boy, man up, you're a boy, boys don't cry. Stop doing that. They grow up with that attitude. He shuts down emotions. So it's hard for them to open up for anything. So that's the problem, I believe.
So how do you think we can help one another? Because obviously within the UK, being far away from our places of birth, how do we help each other within the community?
It's changing the culture. This culture of telling people that men don't cry, that should be changed. We need to start telling people to open up. If you got a problem, open up. And this thing of checking up on each other. But sometimes we got a tendency of seeing somebody's been absent or like, we just leave him alone. But sometimes people are trying to communicate something by doing that, by stepping away. They're actually trying to communicate. It's a cry for help.
Yeah.
And we don't notice it. We don't see it. We just leave it. Let's encourage checking up on each other a lot, and try and stop this culture that men don't cry. It doesn't matter how strong you are. You go to the gym every day, you still get hurt.
That's true.
Right? So open up. It's easier when you talk about things. You heal faster because you get more people to listen to you and try and help you than when you stay with all those things by yourself. Because what happens is you start getting questions. You're bottling in all these things, and then you're getting questions which you're not getting answers to because nobody is actually giving you answers. You're not talking to anyone. The only advice you are getting is your own advice. And usually that voice starts telling you things.
Still kill and destroy is the mission. Yeah, that's very true. That's very true. No, thank
So if we change this culture where we tell, I think it needs to start with us telling our kids, look, it doesn't mean that you're a boy. You get feelings too. Everybody has feelings. So if you got anything that's problem, say it out. Don't bottle things in. And we should stop telling our kids, hey, stop it, you're a boy. Yeah. Men don't cry. We gotta stop that.
Yeah, that's true. So I remember you used to have a men group. Is it still running? Where you used to gather men, gardening and things like that. Do you still do that?
No, we don't do that. The thing is, I think people end up moving different places, and one of the most important person that I used to work with in that group, Bang, and I ended up moving to Carlisle down there. So, yeah, shout out to Panganai if you're listening, my man. Shout out.
Yeah, he's Mr. Hustler.
He's another guy who was up with the community, wanting to do community, things. So, yeah.
Yeah. So, do you think with the music you're able to gather, have that impact, within the man community, if I may put it that way?
Yeah, you see, it's possible. It's possible if men can step out there, and you tend to have men not wanting to try new things. Usually when you put out things like singing, drumming, dancing, you tend to get a lot of more female participants than men. So I don't know what it is with men not wanting to take part. Is it a pride thing, or is it a shyness thing? I'm shy, I don't want to be there. And then, but I want to encourage men, take part, when there's things like these drumming activities, singing activities. Let's have all the men come and, give us those basses as well behind those nice, women voices. It would be quite nice, to have a community thing like that. But it is quite possible. Mm-hmm. We could have a drumming class just based for men. And the good thing about drumming is it's a therapeutic thing. So it's very therapeutic. A lot of people do not understand or do not know how much therapeutic drumming is. Imagine you're stressed, really stressed, you want to punch someone out.
Yeah.
And you get the chance to beat the drum, really, really beat the drum. You take out all of that stress on the drum. By the time you go home, you feel much better.
Yeah.
You want to just chill out and relax your muscles, you can go there and just play the drum. You can actually be in a different zone when you do drumming. It's very, very therapeutic. It's not just mentally and physically. It is quite beneficial. Mm. So, yeah, there can be a men's group catering for that if the men can step out there.
Okay. No, that's encouraging. No, thank you very much. I just came up with
My name is Mavrin Lube. I'm the director of Open Mind Psychological Therapy Service, a service that delivers psychological interventions to common mental health problems, including depression, anxiety, post-traumatic stress disorder, and OCD. I deliver sessions via telephone, video, or via text-based services. Get in contact if you are struggling with your mental health at the moment and you want support using the approach cognitive behavioral therapy, which is a nice recommended intervention for most anxiety and depressive disorders. I'm also qualified in interpersonal psychotherapy, which is a therapy based on the understanding that depression can be attributed or caused by difficulties happening interpersonally. I also work with clients who are experiencing grief. So if you feel you need somebody to talk to, please contact me on 0777 27 52510.
Are you going to be writing a book based on culture? Because one thing that I think we lack is that continuity. If you are not there, and you can only kind of like touch so many people within your own environment, but if you've got a book that tells about the Shona culture, the clashes of the cultures, I think that would help, and I think
True.
you're the man for the job.
It will definitely help. Because if you think about it, right, so much has been lost in our own cultures because it's not been written down. We're talking about talents as well. Most of the things used to be passed down. Right, I'm a farmer. I would teach my son to be a farmer. I wouldn't write it down. But if I die before I teach my son, my talent is lost. That's where it stops.
Yeah, that's true.
So a lot of things in our own cultures, in our own traditions, have been lost. A lot of talents, they've gone. We had people, blacksmiths, people who could carve, people who could do all sorts. Doctors, traditional healers.
Yeah.
Those were doctors, like real doctors.
We take that for granted.
Exactly. But those were doctors, like, most of the medicines we get nowadays is based on
what?
Those roots that we used to get. Right? But these are talents that have been lost because they have not been written down. They have been passed on from one generation to the other. And then the next generation, sometimes they are not interested in that. So your dad he's going out there, in the field all day. But you don't want to be a farmer, all you want to do is go and play football. But because it's not written down,
it can't be passed on.
It can be passed on to him because he doesn't want it. And nobody else can know about it because that person just dies with it. So you are definitely right. Writing down about things that we know or things that we love is another way of being able to pass on things, because one day you never know who's going to pick up that book and read it and
read it. Yeah, because to be honest, I think our culture, our language is at the point of extinction. It's this generation or even the next generation. I'm not sure about the next generation that comes after us, but all that is will be forgotten.
Definitely, because if you go now, we might be looking at people here. If you go to Africa, very hard to find someone who still speaks undiluted, dialects like language. So you will have a language, Shona, but someone will say a sentence, and in that sentence there is 2-3 English words. It's very hard for you to find somebody who just speaks without adding a different language or slang in it. So you find that language gets... Some kids nowadays don't even know the real names or original names of some things because all they've known is either the slang name or the English name. So nobody even bothered to teach them, no, that's not what you call this. This is called that in our language.
Yeah.
So they grow up knowing that thing is whatever language you give it.
Yeah, I came here thinking I was going to be discussing other things, but to be honest with you, I think that is the very important, that is the most important thing that has come out of this discussion. Obviously, your talent is something very important. How would you help somebody discover their talent? What they're good at doing, or what God has given them?
It's not easy to help someone discover their talent, but what I can say is, if you know someone has a talent, nurture it. Help them to nurture that talent, to grow it. What we tend to have was a problem with our culture where our parents, our generation, wanted you to be a doctor, a pilot, an engineer. So everything was based on school, not skill. So they will have a child who they can see is very good at playing football. Very, very good. Oh, my child is good at playing football. But at school, not very good. And they would punish the child for that. If you don't do your homework, you don't go to school, you're not going to football. Now, all that it does is take away the little chance that kid has of turning that talent into a profession. Right? You can tell, oh, my kid is not very good at school, but he's very good at football. Don't put pressure on him on the school. Let him tell him, yeah, school is good for you. But then encourage him to play that football more, because that can turn into a profession for him.
Yeah, true.
You can see your son loves singing. Every time your son is walking around singing, but in school is not very good, but you punish them for singing. Or if you don't do this, then you're not going to do the singing. You're not listening to this music. I'm shutting all this down.
It's like
see, and I think our parents used to do that.
Yeah.
Because they want you to be a doctor, they want you to be an engineer, they want you to be a pilot. But if you look at it nowadays, a footballer makes more money than a pilot.
True.
A musician can make even more money than a pilot.
Mm.
You have a talent, you know your son has got talent, nurture it. Help them to love that talent. Do not punish them for the talent they have because you want them to do things that you couldn't do. So some parents want to fulfill their own dreams, through their kids. Oh, I couldn't be a pilot, so I want my kid to be a pilot. It shouldn't work that way.
Mm.
We should help them or help anybody who's got their own talent that you can see, or I can see he loves that. Help them nurture that and enjoy it. Give them opportunities that will make them discover more in that talent they have. Oh, I've seen you play on the drums. You know what? There's a drumming workshop coming up that is free. Do you want to go and take part? That's, helping them to nurture. Oh, he loves football. Do you want to go to the game next Sunday? We go and watch the game. Now he's inspired by watching the players playing. Oh, I want to be like him. Take him to a training session. Let him train. Or buy him a little guitar. You can see he loves music. Buy him a little drum, a piano. Things that encourage them to do it more. Instead of punishing our kids for failing at school by taking away the things they love doing.
Okay. No, point. Yeah, I think your talent. That's my area of expertise. I'm guilty of that. And I've always told you, I don't see why. We are now in the economy where, our economy is based on educating through talent. And I don't see why you haven't got yes, you do the workshops, but I don't see why you haven't manualized it, put it down, put pen to paper.
Logistics.
Yeah, no. I'm here on YouTube today.
Yeah,
well, I'm going to post that on YouTube.
Sometimes you got to look at the logistics and how things work. Well, life, I wish life came with a manual. Life is not easy. I wish it just came with a manual and just says, this is what you do in this kind of situation. But then, you have things sometimes. You got family, you got extended family, you got things to look upon. So sometimes you're looking at several different circumstances that need to help you make a decision. And this could be a life-changing decision. But this is based on different circumstances. So this is one of the things that has not led me down that path. So like I was saying, I'm starting uni this year.
Okay.
So myself, I know what I love. I'm happy doing music anytime. Anytime I'm happy sitting down with the drum. Anytime. If I had a choice, and if that is the job I could do that all the time. Very happy. But like I'm saying, there's different circumstances that come into play.
Yeah, true.
So when I look at those circumstances, it makes me want to do something else. So that's one of the reasons why I'm going to university, looking at other opportunities. That does not mean that I'm giving up on the music. So if a chance happens to pass by, that I can still make this music thing a viable business, I will still take it with both hands.
No, it has to be. I'm looking at a cultural center.
Yes. it's one thing I've always wanted to do. You see, the thing is, sometimes I think we need to speak to people like you who can inspire. I've always said I'll be happy to have my own center, a place that I can run where people come and learn. about no different aspects of African culture, drumming, dancing, singing, all different aspects is there. It's just a cultural center readily available for people to come. I can still go out in the community and do workshops. I can still go into schools. But if there's a place that is open every time, it makes it easy for people to access information. You want to learn anything about African culture, there's an African cultural center that's there. I would love to run a place like that. I would love to have a center like that. But sometimes, you need to approach the right people and make them see the right kind of vision and how it's going to benefit people and all that. But that is something that I would like to.
Yeah, we need to change that narrative. Chinatown is there. Why not, our own town?
Yeah, why not? Yeah. Why not?
Yeah.
Certainly, yeah.
And to be honest, it's been, we could go on for hours just talking, and it's catch up as well. I haven't seen it in a long time.
Yeah, man, yeah.
But yeah, I just want to thank you for this time, and to say, what advice would you give either our own community out there or people in general? Because like I said to Dr. Miles Monroe, one of the things I wanted to kind of like unpack is a statement that he said that the richest place in on earth is the graveyard. But I wanted to say no, I'm kind of like writing my own thesis to say no, the richest place should not be the graveyard, but should be the communities. Because in the communities, that's where the talents are, that's where the dreams and the wisdom is. So that's where we need to go out, and that's why we're out and about to now say, okay, yeah, I know Kapuma is there. I know Mavrin and all the other guys that I'm still yet to interview or have conversation with. They're out there. So what would you say, as your word of wisdom to the community out there, or whoever will take time to listen to this? It's
hard. Word of wisdom. I'm not that wise,
Oh yes, you are. You are. Gray hair is coming.
This is age, not wisdom. But I always believe, if you have a passion, follow it. Follow your passion. Do what makes you happy. There's that belief, it's a word, it's that YOLO. People always say YOLO. Okay. You only live once.
All right.
I don't say YOLO. I say YODO.
YODO.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I don't believe you live once. Every day that you wake up, yeah, you've lived.
You've lived, yeah.
So you live every day you wake up. So that YOLO is a lie. You don't live once, you live every day you wake up.
Every day you wake up.
But you only die once.
Wow.
Right?
Wow. Yeah.
So when you're still alive and you still have the opportunity to do things that you can do, do them. Because you only die once.
Wow.
When you're dead, you're dead.
You're dead, it's gone. Wow.
So take opportunities, grab them. You get an opportunity, you got something that you want to do, you got a passion, don't be afraid to do it. Do it.
No, thank you. And obviously to me, this new project, I was actually surprised that you jumped at the opportunity to say, yes, I would like to come and have a conversation.
No, you're doing a good thing. I've been watching it, so you're doing a good thing. You're trying to expose what is out there in the community for other people to know that this is around. So I really appreciate what you did. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, thank you. So how do we get to make it better?
Well, like I'm saying, keep doing what you're doing. I can expose you to more people that are actually doing good things in the community. There's so many. Like I say, if I point them to you and you point them to the world gets to know about all these people that make an impact in our own African community, in our own African culture. There are so many people out there.
Definitely. I mean, one of them is This magazine.
Yes.
I didn't realize that.
Yes,
You know,
yes.
we're
So,
doing it locally.
Sticks
in
and
the
Stones. Shout out to Sticks and Stones magazine in Middlesbrough. This is actually run by our own community.
Wow.
This is from the African community. This is an African magazine.
This is beautiful.
And like I said, Middlesbrough Arts Festival, Sticks and Stones will be there. We will be there. Mandingo Bay Warriors will be there.
Okay. Could you just give us the date again, please?
27th of May.
27th of
It will be
May.
a Saturday over there. And I think you've heard about Vincent Munisi.
Vincent.
So Vincent Munisi is one of the other brothers that I'm going to introduce to you. I think you and you will have a very, very, very nice conversation with Vincent. Vincent Munisi is an author.
Wow.
Vincent Munisi writes books. He's got loads of books that are already
Really?
published. Yes. So you can actually check him on Google. Just type Vincent Munisi and you can see some of the books that he wrote.
Wow.
So I believe you...
So why are we not getting that exposure?
Because we don't have people like you. We need more people like you. So I think, that should be your next interview.
Oh, wow. Wow. Yeah, if you can, pull out the networking card.
Definitely. I'll point you to Vincent, I think you will have a very interesting talk with Vincent.
Oh, no, thank you. Thank you very much.
Arthur, who is actually currently at the moment lecturing at Gateshead College.
Really?
He's teaching marketing there because he's an experienced marketer as well. He did marketing at uni. He will tell you a lot. I'm now talking about him like I'm him, but he inspires me.
At the end of the day, this is what we need. We need to bring that community together.
He inspires me. Very good guy. So, like I say, I think you will have a very good talk with Vincent. But I will point you to his way.
So Vincent, we're inviting you on this one. Yes. Anyway, as a tradition that I borrowed off, we learn from each other. It says iron sharpeneth iron. So one of my friends says he picks up a glass every so often because you don't get people to toast, to your success. So you sit in your house and you say, to me, regardless of. So I'll just want to pick up us to take the glasses and toast to Mr. Kapuma's success, the milestones that you've touched. You've done very well. I met you when you're still single. Now you got two bouncing young lads and Mrs. on the way to completing, qualification.
Yes.
That is success. And how many schools have you been to?
Lost count.
When you were failing that O level, did you ever think you... Yeah, so you've done very well. And to many more successes. Well done, Fan.
Thank you to my success and to yours too.